Tonight I wanna see the bright lights over me. Show me something magical, something beautiful. Come and take me higher, set my world on fire tonight, tonight. Show me everything I want to know. Take me right around the world. I'm feeling tonight, got me feeling so right. Yeah, now we could lie.
This week on Top Billing, we bring you our second special on the talents, insight and humanity of Nelson Mandela. We ask what made this man a leader. Top sportsmen and women reveal his deeper understanding of sport. Hollywood legends tell us why this is the stuff epics are made of. Those he inspired describe his magic touch and his marvelous sense of humor. Madiba's children and grandchildren speak of the father of our nation. We take you back to a treasured time for Mam Graça Machel and Utatu Madiba. We retrace personal walks with a giant of humanity and marvel at the wings he gave others to fly. And we bring you this Nelson Mandela special from the home of our country's history, the Freedom Park Memorial.
Good evening, my name is Bassie Khumalo, and it is my privilege, pleasure and honor to present and dedicate tonight's show to Utatu Nelson Mandela, our beloved father of the nation who's made this world a far better place. Tonight we come to you from Freedom Park, developed to mark how far we have come, a path that Utatu Madiba has forged for us to become a free, united and democratic South Africa. Tonight, we honor a man whose moral compass and leadership has been exemplary to many nations.
Born into the Tembu royal family of the Eastern Cape, he was affectionately named Holomisa or troublemaker by his father Gadla. Long before he grew up, studied law, moved to Johannesburg and became politically active, there was a sense that this man was destined to shake the tree.
He has always had a very big influence, particularly to the young people, because among the leaders, he was this leader who was not just talking and being reasonable. He was there, very brave, ready to take action, ready to give a leadership in that kind of sense. That defines Madiba's character as a leader, not just theoretical, not a strategist only, but also an implementer of what he thinks. Of course, he comes as this man who has sat in Robben Island for a long time, who led the revolution, to come to South Africa, to put across the message for unity and reconciliation of this country in such a powerful manner that nobody will ever forget the period when Madiba preached reconciliation.
Behind his loving manner, a backbone of steel and fierce intellect helped him negotiate the unbanning of the ANC and unconditional release of political prisoners, a process defined by one historic relationship.
Mr. Mandela was brought under cover of darkness to my office in Tannie in Cape Town, just for a personal meeting. We didn't discuss anything of substance that evening, in the sense we didn't talk about what was lying ahead, the negotiations, the issues which we would have to negotiate about. And later on, we went away from each other and reported to our various constituencies, I think I can do business with this man.
It always seems impossible until it's done, said Madiba, and his example is often turned to in trying to resolve problems in government or society, especially for respected anti-apartheid and anti-corruption activist Patricia de Lille.
What I loved most about Mandela was the way he could just speak the truth. And I learned that too, that when you speak the truth, you don't need to be afraid of anyone. You only need to say the way it is. And whenever, I got tired of working and and you look at Mandela's schedule, you see what he is doing, because he was pursuing the truth. He was pursuing justice. And that's what I share with Madiba. Pursue the truth, pursue justice, and the humility that is not just about me, it's about my country and it's about my people.
It was at the Grand Parade in Cape Town in his first speech after his release that Nelson Mandela committed the rest of his life to his fellow South Africans. Today's leader of the opposition, Helen Zille, describes the effect of that commitment.
He was a great leader because he understood that leadership is service, that leadership is a lot of sacrifice, and hardly anybody exemplifies that as much as he does. He had a vision for South Africa. I just read his speech from the dock again this morning. And his commitment to non-racialism, his commitment of building one nation with one future in this country was quite remarkable at that time. And the sacrifices that he was prepared to make for that vision, in the belief that it would one day be realized, is something that still gives one gooseflesh today.
Everywhere he made significant political acts has taken on even more weight, as it has at the centuries-old government residence of the Western Cape Premier.
This is Leeuwenhof's famous Madiba room. It is the most special place in Leeuwenhof. It's a smallish room, but it's well known as the room where Madiba spent the night before he opened the first democratic parliament as president of South Africa. And of course, he didn't want anybody to know who he was going to be putting in his first cabinet, so they had a phone put in here, and he used that phone to phone the people and to say, will you be in my cabinet? Will you be the minister of such and such or so and so? And this is the table on which he phoned, and this is the chair that he sat on. And this is the bed that he slept in that night. It's the Madiba bed, and that is why this is the most special piece of furniture in this house.
Coming up, how Madiba used a golden age for South African sport to unite a nation, and why some legends of the silver screen simply had to tell that story.
Knowing sports can unite the most diverse of people, and using that to build a nation, now that was Nelson Mandela's genius.
As important as the reconstruction and development program, sport rebuilt our spirit, which we saw when South Africa won the Africa Cup of Nations in 1996.
You can make us walk tall. You have already done so several times in the past. And we wish the best team good luck. And but we know in our hearts, we don't have to express it, we know which is the best team.
On the subject of hosting the Africa Cup of Nations, and more generally on the role of sport, Madiba said that it has the power to inspire, to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand, and creates hope where once there was only despair. Goalscorer in Bafana's triumph over Tunisia, Mark Williams, can't forget Madiba's part in that win.
When he played in the African Cup, and I remember every morning at 6 o'clock the President Nelson came to us and greeted us. But the funny part is 90 on the finals, 3rd of February, I was the first one in the queue, and he came to me and says to me, Mark, today you're going into war, no matter what happened. Today the nation is behind you, and believe those words stick to me. I mean, it took me away, and just to be part of it, I mean, there's a million words hugging me and bringing me that sort of energy, that feeling. It's something that you can't express, and it did a lot for 1916.
This was a golden era for sporting people, but Olympic silver was more than good enough too, when Elana Meyer did so well in the 10,000 meters in the 1992 Games.
Madiba just played such a significant role in South Africa getting back into the international world of sport. I met him for the first time when he visited the Olympic Village, and it was just such an unbelievable occasion. The South African team was really ill-prepared for our first Olympic Games in 30 years. And the moment that he walked in, everybody could feel his presence, and I think went into the Games with that energy. So that was obviously an unbelievable moment for me, and then to also bring back the first medal in 30 years for South Africa.
We came close to winning the 1992 Cricket World Cup, and as the Proteas returned to top-flight matches, Shaun Pollock witnessed Madiba's galvanizing effect.
test, in our 5th test against England, Mr. Mandela came onto the field, shook our hand to wish us well. And then in the one-day series, he was there at the end to present the trophy, and I got man of the series, so he presented that award to me. So it was really something special. He was all decked out in his South African cricket hat and his South African cricket blazer. I think he was just wonderful from that perspective. He really did understand what the country was passionate about and used it to the advantage of unifying us.
Today we're standing here with the #1 test team in the world. Thanks to the big Madiba, he made everything possible, and he inspired everyone in the country. He brought us together through sport, and our country owes him a huge thank you.
Well, I think, being the father of nations, and especially being a sportsman, and his famous quote that sports unites a country, we really saw that in 2010 when the World Cup was here, and everybody was just sort of in arms and nobody cared about race or colour or anything. And after the Olympic Games, I also really felt it coming back to South Africa, seeing the reaction from everybody and how sport unites each other. So I have to say thank you so much to him for putting us on the map and being able to contribute to his cause.
When Chad le Clos beat Michael Phelps and took Olympic gold, he drew huge inspiration from a famed Madiba moment.
For me, one of his greatest moments was 1995 when he came out after everything had happened and put on the Springbok jersey for the All Black game. That's something that's, humility, integrity, everything all put in one. And I think, if everybody could take a feather out of his hat, the country would be a much, much better place.
And it was Peter Hendricks who put them back in front, 14-13. South Africa had a fine side.
Sport can be more powerful than government in breaking down barriers. In one simple gesture of acceptance and support of the Springboks, Madiba astounded Captain Francois Pienaar's team and all South Africans.
I never knew he was going to wear the Springbok jersey. I was in the physio room getting strapped up, and then I came into the main changing room. Now, the tension is tremendous because you're playing the final of the Rugby World Cup, and it's really, really a tense moment. And there he stood with a Springbok jersey on. And it was quite emotional. And he just said, good luck. And then he turned around and I saw there's a number 6 on his back. And to me, it was just very emotional. I couldn't sing the anthem because I knew if I opened my mouth, I would start to cry. And it was very emotional. But a special moment. Where in the world will a president that was imprisoned for 27 years come out and wear what was actually a white man's sport?
Live coverage from Alice Park. Hollywood, if they had the opportunity to write a script, Hollywood, they do write these fantastic stories. If they had the opportunity to write a script and the role players were South African rugby team, the World Cup, and the actors were Nelson Mandela and 15 guys playing against the mighty All Blacks, they couldn't have written a better script. A nation came together, a country won, not a team, and it's just tremendous what that did for our country. So every time I think back of that moment where he hands me the cup and he shakes my hand, it's smiles all around.
The events of that Ellis Park victory united a nation of 43 million people and was told in the film Invictus.
Tell me, Francois, how do we inspire ourselves to greatness when nothing less will do? How do we inspire everyone around us?
What did he want?
I think he wants us to win the World Cup.
The director was CLINT Eastwood.
I knew a little bit about Nelson Mandela, but not a lot. But I didn't know about this incident. And the incident struck me as such a creative thing. And to see a vision in this rugby team as a way of reconciliation. And the rugby team had not played because of boycotts, had not played in international matches in some years, and the odds of them coming along and winning in this thing and being only eligible because of being the host nation But to go ahead and win and to carry it all the way through, it seemed like, what did he know in the back of his mind that he thought this would work out?
On Robben Island, Madiba considered lines from his favorite poem, Invictus, which reads, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." That spirit infused the 95 Springboks and Morgan Freeman, who played Mandela in the film.
There's a quietude about Madiba. There is this quiet strength. He, I think, has always been a leader. It's just been his personality. And as such, he's done a lot of studying. That's what he was doing this whole time he was in prison. He told me, it gives you time to think. He knows what's right. He knows that there's no question in his mind about what's right. So that's that focus. It's just one of the things that I think serves his inner life.
The full depth of Madiba's inner life was one he revealed in his autobiography, A Long Walk to Freedom, so rousingly portrayed in producer Anand Singh's film, which is being celebrated worldwide.
Kudos to Anand Singh. The royal family chooses one movie a year to screen as a charity event, and they've chosen his movie. So as a film producer, he must be really happy.
When the royals joined the stars of the film and Nelson Mandela's daughters at the London premiere, no one could have known that Madiba would pass away that night. But he had already given the film and Anand Singh his blessing.
He's a man of tremendous ability, and I think given the resources and the support, he can do absolutely excellently.
He represents today a leader that we are so short of, but I think also that he's said he's like every man. He's you and I, he's got weaknesses and strengths, and I think everywhere in the world they look for someone that they can look up to, and Madiba, there's no one better.
Ingakhema yena isebantwini ngolo hlobo. Namhlanje ningamadoda. Bahle banomkhitha.
He's an ordinary boy from a small village from the Eastern Cape of Puno, who's managed to impact on the world globally. It's a story about how the human spirit has the ability to triumph over adversity. It's a story of survival, and it's a story of love.
You are Winnie Madikizela, the first black social worker they've ever had, and you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen.
I heard you have a lot of girlfriends. I'm different.
In the role of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Naomi Harris came to appreciate the scale of this story.
Really, for me, the whole lesson and what this movie is all about is about Mandela. His extraordinary achievement, the fact that, he overcame the more human basic instinct to kind of want revenge, to be angry, to be spiteful, and instead he chose to forgive. And that is a symbol not just for South Africa, but for the rest of the world. That's a huge gift that we can all be inspired by.
What is it that you personally want?
I have beautiful children, a beautiful wife. I want them to walk free in their own land.
The situation on the streets is out of control.
Somebody wants me.
The film's British director, James Chadwick, drew on personal testimony wherever he could.
For me, to be with men and women that knew him, knew he loved to box, knew he loved cars, and can you imagine what he was like as a dynamic man? I met him just before his 94th birthday. I can only describe it as electricity. I mean, 93, he was like bang on, so sharp, and this electricity that just radiated off him. I carry that with me, just a small bit of that. And how he must have been as a young man, we know he was a brilliant leader, but as a young person, and the two of them, Winnie and him, coming together, it must have been electric. It was those accounts really that helped me find a through line, that it's as much as it's about what happened in the history, it's also a film about love and forgiveness.
I have fought against white domination. I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a free, democratic society where all persons live together in harmony with equal opportunities.
On the subject of the name Holomisa, meaning troublemaker, British actor Idris Elba made a very good point.
There's a theme there that I think can inspire, the world to sort of re-look at themselves a little bit. Even young people, I think, can get something from this film because, Mandela was a very smooth, cool guy when he was younger, and he changed into one of the world leaders. So I think everyone can take something from this film. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin. People learn to hate. They can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart.
Coming up, Prisoner 46664 inspires timeless music. We search for the key to Madiba's magic and enjoy his wonderful sense of humor.
Of all artists, musicians speak directly to the heart. Johnny Clegg's anthem, Asimbonanga, was for us written whilst Utatu Madiba was still in prison. But 9 years after his release, he joined Johnny in France for one unforgettable performance.
It's the song which perhaps best represents how South Africa was feeling, asking, where is he? And finally, Johnny Clegg was singing it directly to Madiba himself.
Well, it is music and dancing that makes me at peace with the world. And at peace with myself. But I don't see much movement at the back there, I would like us to join. Let's just repeat. Let's just repeat it. Okay. Asimbonanga, Mandela, Lapego,
For each and every South African that the great man has now left this world stage for the last time. But as Tata Madiba knew so well, the powerful music we associate with him has a miraculous power to reach out and heal.
Whether one-on-one or in a stadium filled to capacity, Utatu Madiba could reach each and every one of us. With a dance, a smile, a look, a word, a touch, Now that was the iconic Madiba magic, which will continue to live on, and we will continue to feel as long as we are alive.
As Nelson Mandela's lifelong friend, fellow prisoner and struggle veteran Ahmed Kathrada points out, no one else could bring that magic.
To him, a child, a peasant, a queen, an aristocrat, same. He'll treat everybody with respect.
I think the best moment that I've ever shared with Madiba was in 2006. I'll never forget, I was on my way to training and my phone rang and he goes, "John, how you doing?" I said, I'm really well. And he goes, "I've heard you've had your firstborn, your daughter Emma Joan." And there we were chatting about the pros and cons of kids, and that my stress levels would now finally understanding what it was like to be a father of a daughter. And he exchanged stories with his daughters, and you know, I suppose gave me insight as to what it is to be a father of a daughter. The more you have to do with Madiba, the more I realized just how he had this incredible effect on people, and why he fought for people and for rights, and why they appreciated it because of his way with people and his appreciation for the small things that actually are the big things in life.
He even called me the day I got married, just to wish me well. I was actually on the golf course at the time, just trying to pass time before the afternoon wedding. And he had just got married to Graça Machel as well, so he had a few pearls of wisdom for me and just basically said, well, they're always in charge, so just make sure it stays that way in your relationship.
Cherished memory of Madiba that sticks out to my mind is when he called me just after I'd been married at 5:15 in the morning, personally, not a PA, to tell me congratulations and that why did I never invite him to my wedding.
10 years ago, Sibusiso Vilane became the first black African to conquer Everest, a feat that did not go unnoticed.
When I first met Madiba, it was just after I'd returned from Mount Everest. He said, what Sibusiso has achieved set standards for Africa. It shows the world that Africa's time is now here. That is what then inspired me to just keep on inspiring other Africans through adventuring and mountaineering and trying to achieve what is near impossible.
Witnessing adventurer Rian Manser's bicycle ride around the African continent, Madiba wanted to meet him.
The thing that stunned me most about meeting Mr. Mandela first was that he made me feel as if he was more in awe of me. I handed this picture to him and I said to him, I had these 2 years and a moment like this happened to me 500 times a day with the special people I bumped into. And he was busy looking at the picture, and that's when he also said to me, what you have done you do not understand. You don't know what you've achieved. He said to me, what you have done is going to inspire the youth of this continent. I must tell you, I really didn't believe in my heart the day that I left over there. I thought, how can me, little Rian Manser, ever inspire the youth of our massive continent? But when I go across South Africa, across the world, and I share my story and where it started and how I met Mr. Mandela and how he inspired me, I share this with thousands and thousands of kids that now listen to my story and get up and go do something they would never have dreamed possible.
As well as firing our imaginations to go further, higher and faster, his message was that life is serious enough already, so if you're going to cry, do so from laughter.
We were at Tata's 90th birthday celebration 5 years ago when UDM party leader Bantu Holomisa told us a story about how sharp and witty the renowned Madiba humour was.
Madiba has got a good sense of humor, there's no doubt about that. He can hardly stay inside the room with him without cracking a joke. We used to travel with him around the hills and valleys of Transkei, and also accompanied him to many countries abroad. Unfortunately, when he introduced me to those leaders in other countries, he would say, traveling with me here is Bantu, Holomisa, a dictator from Transkei. I have decided to travel with him because he's so popular at home. I'm afraid that I might be caught by him. So those are the light moments we've had with him.
Nelson Mandela's ability to raise a laugh disarmed his fiercest opponents and charmed the world, as when presented with an English jersey during the 2010 World Cup.
Where's Zelda? Can I wear it?
Well, I think you've got a few South Africans outside that may be angry.
I believe that I'm 83.
Yeah.
But those who know better say authoritatively that I've just passed 100.
My very, very first meeting with him, he shook my hand and then he brought me closer to hug me. And as he hugged me, despite all the media being around, he said to me, "It's wonderful to meet a Miss South Africa with real hair."
If he had a chance to play a prank, he would. I remember the one journalist, she came close to us. She went on her one knee and she stood in front of Madiba and I. And then before she could ask a question, he said, "Now that's the way to propose." And he was saying to me, "Are you married yet? Are you married yet? Because you already have this proposal coming."
He teases about men and boyfriends, and then every day he would ask, "Did you phone all your boyfriends?" And it's not as if I've had 1,000 boyfriends, but then he would ask every day, "Have you phoned all your boyfriends?" And then some days I would say I couldn't get hold of all of them, and then the other day I would say, "No, they've all left me." So there's constant joking, about that. He's always got something very, very sharp to say.
Now, those one-liners were as incisive as the best stand-up comedy. And Utata, always gave credit wherever it was due. And for Peter Dirk Ace, it was the greatest compliment ever to hear that he made Madiba laugh.
Mr. President, I have a present for you. I would like to give it to you right now because I know you have got so many things to do. I would like to show you. This is a very interesting box. It was sent to Robben Island, and obviously you'd left. They scratched it out Paulsmoor. Then they sent it to the Vic Verster. Then I think somebody sent it to Tannie, Cape Town, but they said return to sender. I'd like to open it for you.
Thank you very much.
And then you can see
very good. Huh? That's very lovely.
A special shirt to remind you of this very special occasion.
Wow.
And I hope
this is very
it.
Lovely indeed. I'll value this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear President.
You know, when people say to me, what's the reason behind Evita's existence? It is to have made Nelson Mandela laugh. And he has so enjoyed her. He beams. And, Peter, where's Evita? I mean, it is just great.
Next up, the Mandela family on Mandela. We get a rare insight into some of Madiba's happiest years, and Bassie recalls her time with the architect who built a rainbow nation.
This museum is named after a Khoi proverb which says, "A dream is not a dream until it is shared by the entire community." Utatu Madiba shared his vision and life with us. So when he found love again in Mam Graça Machel, we all rejoiced in that he found all the company he needed in one woman.
He said, "I'm in love with a remarkable lady. I don't regret the reverses and setbacks because late in my life, I'm blooming like a flower because of the love and support she has given me."
It's not easy to talk about the 10 years of my marriage, except to say that I am happy to have had a wife like her.
We appreciate having very quiet, very calm, very serene space in which we just, sometimes we don't have to talk. We just sit together. Sometimes we'll hold hands. That space is the best of celebration for us.
Ma Graça's daughter, Josina Machel, shared her thoughts.
I watch them every day, and I know that it's not fake. I see when my mom walks into the room and Papa just smiles, and I know that Papa brought a very big and special smile to my mom's. Actually, it was more than a smile; it was a laughter to my mom's life, and that's an inspiration for me.
Madiba was blessed with 6 children, 17 grandchildren, and many great-grandchildren. His daughter, Zinzi Mandela-HLONGWANE, knows their place in his heart.
he would often get quite puzzled by the way people respond to him and that they are in awe of him, because that's just who he is. But what would excite him, what would inspire him, is to see the love that we have for the children today, that we're still able to put children first. That's what he's all about.
Although imprisonment deprived him of raising his children himself, once he won his freedom, he made up for lost time wherever possible by mentoring his grandchildren like Ndilega, Tuwini, and Mandela.
Granddad can treat the same person, be it a gardener or head of states, the same way. He doesn't change. So for me, that is one thing that I revere about him.
And my grandfather's always insisted, yes, we have this name, but we treat everybody with dignity and respect. If there's anything that my grandfather detests, it's rudeness, lack of humility. So, in everything that we do, we try and honor him and our grandmother in terms of what, they've taught us.
For one, with myself, after having been in the work field in business for about 6-7 years, he suddenly came to me and said, you need to go back and study and build a strong foundation. And I was like, Granddad, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm doing very well for myself, I'm very independent. And then he started insisting, you need to go to school. As your grandfather, I want you to go to school. When he sees potential in his siblings and his grandchildren, he will insist and push him extra hard to ensure that they achieve their goals.
Family meant everything to Tatu Madiba. Not only just his immediate family, he saw us as a nation, as his family. Hence, he was the father of the nation. His reach included each and every one of us. And I've had the most awesome and blessed privilege to know him personally.
Growing up, Bassie only knew Nelson Mandela from a picture her father kept hidden away and stories she'd been told. It was as a nervous 16-year-old Miss Soweto that she first met him, found herself instantly put at ease, and felt she'd gained another father and a best friend for life.
I remember my time when I won Miss South Africa in 1994. That's when I really got to know Dada well and work with him with the reconstruction and development program, where I would fundraise for the actual program. And I remember at the end of my reign when I presented the check to him that this is my just small contribution towards helping to rebuild this nation.
Madiba felt Bassie should keep learning, like her mother Beatrice Makhalemele, who was a teacher.
Papa was very passionate about education. I remember when I won with South Africa, he offered me a scholarship to go to Georgetown University, where Bill Clinton studied, and because he knows my passion for politics. But I couldn't take up the scholarship because, Patience and I had started the business. But I did promise him that I will get my junior degree, and now I'm working towards my second degree and in international relations and politics. Always, every time I was with him, always used to say and impress upon me, education, get an education, and it's important that young people get educated. So he would preach that like gospel, because he honestly believed that when you're educated, this is a tool to be able to fight poverty.
Madiba said freedom would be meaningless without security in the home and in the streets, so he encouraged secure relationships.
When Romeo had asked my hand in marriage, and then Madiba had heard about it, he says, but this young man needs to come and see me before anything happens. So I told him, I said, listen, Papa wants to actually come and see you and lock eyes with you and check you out if you're a good suitor for her, for his daughter. So off we went to Harton so that he could grant us his blessings to get married. That was in 2000.
Mr. Philip Makhalemele was a bus driver and loving dad to the family. But sadly, he would not live to see her turn 30.
I remember when my dad passed on in 2001. Papa calls me and he says, you know what, from this day on, darling, you can count on me as a father. And truly, he lived that. He was my father, he was my guide, he was my moral compass, he was my teacher. And he was so incredibly amazing, not just to me, to my siblings. We still felt that we had a father. My mom passed on as well, and Mom Graça also took on that responsibility and of being my mother. So I was blessed and have been guided by two awesome beings that have walked this earth. And the other thing about Papa that I absolutely loved and adored about him was his love for children. You should see his face, how it used to just light up when there was a child in the room, where there were children at a function, he would literally, stop, and he used to cause quite a lot of mayhem for his protectors because he just did things on the spur of the moment. That's how human he was. He was an individual who was fully present and fully engaged when he was with you.
To be free in the company of his cherished countrymen and women, he and fellow Rivonia trialists like Ahmed Kathrada paid a very dear price.
There are actually no words that I can use to be able to define the measure of the man. I don't think words have actually ever been invented that can fully describe Papa and the path that one has had the privilege to walk with Papa has been simply extraordinary. An ordinary girl from Soweto to have the extraordinary privilege to share her life with an extraordinary being.
His gift was making every one of us feel that we mattered just as much to him as his own family and dearest friends. Right after this, those who knew Nelson Mandela best wonder if one man could do everything that he did, then how much more could the rest of us do together?
Madiba placed his life in our hands. In his charity work, he was a gift beyond all value. A man who took the hand of even the smallest amongst us and made us walk 10,000 feet tall. Better still, he inspired others to do the same.
One winter during his presidency, he stopped his car to talk with a group of street children and decided then and there to start the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund.
What is your message to the children of the world, the children of the continent, and indeed the children of South Africa?
Well, there are many people in South Africa who are rich, who can share those riches with people who are not so fortunate.
Stepping down from the presidency was no retirement, as he campaigned for issues that were important to him. An example ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa aspires to.
He's taught us the lesson of giving, that it is when you give that you receive much more. When you give, you get even more blessings. And this is where we need to be learning from him, emulating him, being like him, and make sure that we care for our fellow human beings.
Our future and the future of our children is being made now. This is why, as a very old man, I found it so hard to retire.
As far as I'm concerned, Tata's compassion is incomparable. He has insight and wisdom that could touch this world over. An important quality to have as human beings is that of emotional intelligence. And that's where Tata Madiba supersedes all of us.
Former Miss Universe Michelle McLean-Bailey recalls how Nelson Mandela inspired her to start her own charity.
The first time we met was quite by chance in Barcelona at the Olympic Games in 1992. At that time, we had just checked in, and when I got to my room, I got a call from reception saying, a South African would like to have tea with you. So I went downstairs and I waited in the booth at the restaurant, and I looked up, and walking towards me was this presence, this beautiful, extraordinary man, and it was Madiba himself. And he said, Michelle, it is such an honor to meet a fellow African who has also been given a platform to do something for Africa and for humanity.
Since balloons are the ultimate expression of a child's happiness and fulfillment, a unique balloon crossing from Robben Island was Matthew Silver-Vallance's way of contributing to a cause Madiba held so dear.
It's all about raising awareness for the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, and ultimately this is just a small echo of everything that Nelson Mandela has done.
These wreaths behind me signifies our rebirth and our nation embracing her future. These are you and me, and if they make us feel like we could touch the stars, then it is because a son of the African soil has given us that faith and belief. As he himself once said, and I quote, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it," unquote.
President Barack Obama said as much in his eulogy, that while we will always fall short of Madiba's example, he makes us want to be better, speaking to what is best inside of us.
What should we as South Africans do to make sure that Madiba's legacy lives?
Let us join hands and build South Africa to become one of the best countries in the world. I think that is what would make Madiba very, very happy.
I think God gave me a very good gift in terms of leadership, and I think we should be learning all the leadership qualities that he has been able to display.
The most important thing people can do is to think about his legacy, his morals, his values, and strive to improve their own lives and the lives of others within their community. It's about decency, about respect, integrity, those things. It's so simple. We just need to adapt it in our own lives and we can change the entire world. If one man could change the world, imagine the impact, we as a nation can have.
Here is a man who can communicate across racial barriers. He can communicate across, civilizations, and I feel like in cultures, I think that's if we can emulate that grace, then we can all, come to some kind of common ground.
For now, we're living our dreams because of the struggle that he went through, and he has given us the freedom. So we're happy and we're grateful for the contribution he has made in our lives.
I think the only way to try and get over the trauma of losing a man and an icon of that nature, not only for us as Africans but for the world, is to try and live in the example that he set and try and honour what he wanted for this country as a long-term goal, as a peaceful nation that do prosper. And the only way we can really pay tribute to who he was as a person is to try and live in the example that he set for us.
Well, he has inspired a whole generation in many ways, and I think Nelson Mandela, great thinker, unifying force, is one individual that is irreplaceable, so to say. And we have kept going because we all wanted to be like him, and he has done tremendously for this country, and it is in his name that we continue to pursue the idea of a united, free, democratic South Africa.
Hundreds of years from now, he will be one of the few people in this world who will be remembered for what he did for his people and for the history of the world, let alone South Africa.
Our nation once stood so close to the brink, especially the years between Madiba's release and our first free and democratic elections. It was not a miracle that delivered us, but a series of the bravest, most imaginative decisions made every day by someone who, like us, was just a human being. If we understand that each of us is the master of our country's fate and is the captain of our nation's soul, then we may find everything we loved in Utatu Madiba also resides in us.
I could spend the rest of my life telling you what Madiba meant to me. What matters most, though, is what he meant to you. So tonight we ask the millions of you out there as South Africans to write our nation's final farewell to Utatu Nelson Mandela in your own words and actions. And to you, Tata, thank you for all that you have taught us. Thank you for all that you have done for us. You have run the race. We will take the baton and continue to run from where you left off. Lalangwa xolo tata Madiba dalubhunga sophityo olumsile qhawela maqhawe umzamo omhle ufezile siyabulela. South Africa and the world, thank you for watching tonight. God bless you.